The night was supposed to be calm, but inside Keanu Reeves there was a storm. He had just returned from a long day of filming, his body tired but his heart restless. He poured himself a glass of water, sat on the edge of his bed and reached for his phone. He wasn't looking for messages from the world. He was looking for something far more personal, a message from Sandra Bullock. But his screen was empty. His heart felt heavy. It had been days since their last conversation, and even then she had seemed distant. Her laughter had been softer, her words shorter, as though something weighed on her, but she refused to share it. Keanu, a man known for his patience and humility, tried not to push. He always respected her space, but respect could not quiet the ache inside him. That night, as the city lights flickered outside his window, Keanu received a call from an old friend. The friend's voice was casual, almost careless, but the words struck him like lightning. "I saw Sandra tonight," the friend said. She wasn't alone. Keanu froze. "Where?" he asked, his voice calm on the surface but his chest tightening beneath it. "A small restaurant downtown," the friend replied. She seemed different, happy, but in a way that felt hidden. Keanu ended the call politely, but when the line went silent, his world filled with questions. Who was she with? Why hadn't she told him? Was this the reason for her distance? His thoughts spiraled, each one sharper than the last. He walked to the window and stared out at the city. Sandra was not someone who betrayed trust easily. She was kind, honest, and always carried herself with dignity. But the thought of her being with someone else without telling him pierced him deeply. He whispered to himself, "Why wouldn't you just tell me?" Memories came rushing back. He remembered their quiet talks between long filming days. The way she made him laugh when his heart felt too heavy. The warmth in her eyes whenever she reminded him that he was more than the roles he played. Those moments had built something strong between them, something that felt unshakable. And now in a single night, doubt threatened to undo it all. Unable to sit still, Keanu grabbed his coat and stepped outside. The night air was cool, brushing against his face as he walked down the quiet streets. Each step carried the weight of his thoughts. He had faced loss and loneliness before, but this was different. This was the fear of losing someone who had become the center of his quiet joy. As he walked, he replayed the possibilities. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe Sandra had simply gone out with an old friend, a colleague, someone she trusted. But then he remembered her recent silence, the distance in her voice, the way her eyes avoided his the last time they met. The truth pressed harder on him. Something was wrong. He returned home near midnight, his mind no clearer than before. Sitting in the dark, he whispered into the emptiness, "If you needed space, you could have told me. If you needed time, I would have given it. But why hide from me?" The following morning, Keanu tried to move through his routine, but his heart was heavy with doubt. He went for a walk through the park they once visited together. The benches, the trees, even the path they had walked hand in hand, all of it reminded him of her. He sat on a bench staring at the ground and asked himself the question he feared most. Was he losing her without even knowing it? Hours later, his phone buzzed. It was a simple message from Sandra. "Hope you're doing well. I've been busy." The words were short, almost cold. No warmth, no detail. It was not the way she usually wrote to him. Keanu stared at the screen, his chest tightening. He typed a reply, then deleted it. He typed again, then erased it once more. Finally, he put the phone down, unable to send anything because deep inside, he knew words alone would not heal this silence. And so, as night fell once again, Keanu realized he stood at the edge of something he could not yet name. Was this the beginning of an end? Or the beginning of a truth that would test them both? His heart whispered a single truth: he loved her. And he was not ready to let her go. But Sandra's secret night out had left a crack in his heart that would not be easy to mend. This was only the beginning. The morning after Sandra's short message, Keanu sat quietly at his kitchen table, staring at the screen of his phone. "Hope you're doing well." "I've been busy." Those words replayed in his mind like a song with no end. They felt empty, like something written to fill silence instead of something written with care. He thought of the call from his friend, the sighting of Sandra out late at night, smiling with someone else. It wasn't jealousy that burned inside him. It was the silence, the secrecy. Sandra had always been honest with him, and now that honesty was gone. Keanu was a man of patience. He believed in giving people space, in never forcing them into answers they weren't ready to give. But this time his heart was restless. Silence was becoming a wall too high to climb. Later that day, he decided to reach out. He sent her a simple message. "Sandra, I miss you. When you're free, can we talk?" Hours passed. No reply. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Keanu walked through the streets trying to calm the storm inside. Every laugh he heard from strangers reminded him of her. Every restaurant he passed made him wonder if she was inside, sitting at a table with someone else, smiling the way she once smiled at him. Finally, he returned home, exhausted not in body but in spirit. He sat on the couch staring at the quiet room and whispered, "Why can't you just tell me the truth?" The next evening, fate gave him an answer he wasn't ready for. As he stepped out of a small bookstore, he saw Sandra across the street. She was with someone, a man he didn't recognize. They were standing close, talking softly, almost hidden from the world. Keanu froze, his heart pounding. He didn't move, didn't call her name. He simply watched. She looked tired, her eyes carrying a shadow he hadn't seen before, but she still smiled faintly at the man beside her. The sight left him torn apart. Part of him wanted to run across the street, demand to know why she had kept this from him. Another part of him held back, knowing that confrontation might push her even further away. Before he could decide, Sandra turned her head slightly, and for a moment, her eyes met his. The world seemed to stop. Her smile faded instantly, replaced by shock, maybe even guilt. But then just as quickly she turned back to the man and walked away into the night. Keanu stood frozen, his chest aching with a pain sharper than any wound he had ever known. Her silence now had a face. Her distance now had a shadow. When he finally walked back to his car, his hands were trembling. The questions inside him grew louder. Who was that man? Why hadn't she told him? And most of all, why did she look at him with eyes full of sorrow instead of explanation? That night, Keanu didn't sleep. He sat in the dark. The image of her walking away burned into his mind. He whispered to himself, "If you're in pain, why won't you let me in? If you're happy, why hide it from me?" He felt torn between two truths. Either she was slipping away into someone else's arms, or she was carrying a secret too heavy to share. But whichever it was, one thing became clear. The silence was destroying him. As dawn painted the sky, Keanu made a vow. "I will find the truth. I will not let this silence break us without understanding why." Because love was not about walking away at the first sign of pain. It was about staying long enough to know the truth, even when the truth could break your heart. And so, Keanu's journey into Sandra's hidden world had just begun. The morning after seeing Sandra with the stranger, Keanu sat by his window, the city alive outside but his heart heavy inside. He could not escape the image of her eyes meeting his across the street. There had been no warmth, no smile, only shock and sorrow. Her silence had always hurt him, but that look cut deeper than any word could. He replayed it again and again, searching for meaning. Was it guilt in her eyes? Was it fear? Or was it simply the face of someone who had already decided to walk away? Keanu was not a man to rush into anger. He had lived too long, seen too much pain to believe in harsh judgments. But the questions were now drowning him. Who was that man? Why had she chosen to hide? Why did she not trust him enough to tell him the truth? Later that day, he decided to call her again. His fingers hovered over the screen, his heart pounding as he pressed her name. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times before finally her voicemail answered. Her voice, soft and familiar, filled his ears. "Hi, this is Sandra. Leave a message." He closed his eyes, listening to the sound, but said nothing. After a long pause, he hung up. His silence now mirrored hers. That evening, he walked through the park they once loved. The air was cool. The trees whispered in the wind. He sat on the old bench where they had shared secrets and laughter and whispered into the emptiness. "If you don't want me in your life, at least give me the respect to say it. Don't leave me in this silence." As he sat there, an old friend joined him. It was Elena, someone who had known both him and Sandra for years. She looked at him with kind but worried eyes. "You look lost," she said softly. Keanu forced a faint smile. "Maybe I am." She studied him for a moment, then asked, "Is this about Sandra?" He nodded slowly. Elena sighed. "She's been distant with everyone. It's not just you. She's carrying something heavy, but she refuses to share it. I tried to talk to her, but she only smiled and said she needed time." Keanu's heart tightened. "Time for what?" Elena shook her head. "I don't know. But what I do know is that she cares for you. Her silence isn't rejection. It's fear." Those words struck him deeply. Fear. Not betrayal, not lack of love. Fear. Later that night, back at home, he sat at his desk and wrote her a letter. His hand trembled, but his words were steady. Sandra, I don't know what you're facing, but please understand this. I'm not afraid of your storms. I'm not afraid of the truth. Silence hurts more than whatever you are hiding. You don't need to protect me from pain. All I need is honesty. All I need is you. He folded the letter and left it at her doorstep the next morning. As he walked away, he whispered, "Please read it. Please let it open the door." For days there was nothing. No call, no reply, no sign that she had even read it. The silence stretched like a long shadow, but Keanu refused to give up. One evening, just as he was about to give in to despair, he found an envelope slipped under his door. His heart pounded as he opened it. The handwriting was hers, shaky but familiar. "Keanu, I read your words. They touched me more than I can say. But I am still not ready to tell you everything. Please give me a little more time. My silence is not about lack of love. It is about something I cannot yet share. Forgive me." His chest tightened as he read it again and again. Her silence was not rejection, but it was still a wall, and walls could break even the strongest hearts. Yet even through the pain, Keanu felt his resolve grow stronger. "I will wait," he whispered. "But when the time comes, I will be here, no matter what your truth is." But deep inside, he knew the truth she carried would not be small. It would be something powerful, something that could change everything between them, and the storm was getting closer. The days after Sandra's letter felt endless. Keanu read it over and over again, searching for hidden meaning in every word. My silence is not about lack of love. It is about something I cannot yet share. Those words gave him hope but also left him restless. Hope because she admitted love was still there. Restless because the wall between them still stood firm. Keanu tried to bury himself in work, but the silence followed him everywhere. During filming, his mind drifted. During interviews, his answers felt automatic. His heart elsewhere. Even in crowded rooms, he felt alone. The one person who mattered most was still far away. One evening, he returned home late and found a package waiting by his door. Inside was a book, one he remembered Sandra loving, with a small note tucked inside. "Keanu, this book once gave me comfort. Maybe it can do the same for you now. I promise I will explain soon. Until then, trust me." He held the book tightly, his chest aching. It wasn't the answer he needed, but it was a sign. She hadn't let go completely. She was still reaching out, even from behind her silence. The next night, fate brought another twist. Keanu went to the same cafe they used to visit, hoping to feel her presence in the familiar walls. As he sat quietly in their old corner, the door opened. Sandra walked in. His heart nearly stopped. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed, but still carried that quiet grace he had always admired. She didn't notice him at first, but when her eyes finally met his, her body froze. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, words trapped in the air. Then slowly, Keanu stood and walked toward her. "Sandra," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with pain. She swallowed hard. "Keanu, I didn't expect to see you here. I left you a letter," he said. "You answered, but not with the truth. Why are you hiding from me? Why are you hiding from us?" Her eyes glistened with tears she refused to let fall. "Because I'm not ready. Because once I tell you, nothing will ever be the same." His voice broke slightly. "But silence is already changing everything. Don't you see? It's breaking me." She looked away, her hands trembling. "Please, just give me more time." Before he could say more, she turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving him standing there, his heart shattering again. That night, Keanu lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The sound of her voice echoed in his mind. "Once I tell you, nothing will ever be the same." What could she be carrying that was so heavy, so dangerous that it could break everything between them? The next morning, he met Elena again, hoping for answers. "She looked at me," Keanu said quietly. "She looked at me like she was already gone." Elena touched his arm gently. "Don't give up on her. Whatever she's hiding, she's not doing it to hurt you. She's doing it because she thinks it's the only way to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Keanu asked. Elena shook her head. "That's something only she can say." As Keanu walked away, he realized the truth was getting closer. Sandra was on the edge of confession, but fear still held her back, and with every passing day the silence grew heavier, cutting deeper into his heart. But Keanu was not a man who gave up easily. He had faced loss, he had faced loneliness, and he had survived storms. This storm, too, he would face. Because love, true love, was not about walking away when things grew hard. It was about staying even when the silence tried to push you out. And Keanu knew this. Soon Sandra's truth would come, and when it did, it would change everything. The night after the cafe encounter, Keanu sat alone in his living room, his thoughts heavy and his heart restless. Sandra's words haunted him. Once I tell you, nothing will ever be the same. He could not shake the feeling that the truth was close. So close it felt like the air around him was waiting to break open. He replayed every moment of their last meeting. The look in her eyes, the tremble in her voice, the way she walked away as if carrying a weight too heavy for anyone else to bear. Keanu whispered into the silence, "Whatever it is, Sandra, I can carry it with you. Why won't you let me?" The following days dragged slowly. He kept busy with work, but his heart was elsewhere. At night, he found himself standing by the window, staring at the city below, hoping for a sign, a message, anything that would tell him she was ready. Then, late one evening, there was a knock at his door. When he opened it, Sandra stood there. Her eyes were red from crying, her shoulders trembling under the weight of what she carried. She didn't speak at first. She just looked at him with a sadness that cut him open. "Come in," Keanu said softly. They sat across from each other in his living room, the silence thick and heavy. Finally, Sandra took a deep breath, her voice breaking as she spoke. "Keanu, the man you saw me with, he isn't what you think. He's not someone I love. He's someone who knows the truth I've been hiding. I asked him to keep my secret, but you saw us before I could explain." Keanu's chest tightened. "What secret, Sandra? What could be so heavy that you would rather push me away than tell me?" Tears filled her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. "I've been sick. I found out months ago and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want you to see me as fragile. I didn't want our bond to change into pity. I thought if I stayed silent, if I pulled away, I could protect you from carrying my pain." Keanu's breath caught. His body froze, but his heart screamed to reach for her. Slowly, he took her trembling hands into his. "Sandra, do you think I would walk away from you because of this? Do you think love is only for the easy days? I would rather face every storm with you than live one calm day without you." Her sobs grew stronger, but she didn't pull away. She leaned into him, letting her head rest against his shoulder. "I was so scared," she whispered. "I didn't want you to hurt because of me." Keanu held her close, his voice firm yet tender. "Love isn't about avoiding hurt. It's about standing together in the middle of it. You're not a burden, Sandra. You're the person who gave me light when I was in darkness. Now let me give it back to you." They stayed like that for a long time, the silence no longer a wall but a shelter. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to cry freely in his arms, and for the first time, he felt the wall between them crumble. Later that night, as she prepared to leave, Keanu walked her to the door. "Don't shut me out again," he said softly. She nodded, her eyes still wet but her heart lighter. "I won't, I promise." As the door closed behind her, Keanu stood in the quiet room, his chest heavy with both sorrow and relief. The truth had finally come out, but the battle ahead was only beginning. Yet deep inside, he felt a quiet strength, because love built on respect, humility, resilience, and kindness could survive even the heaviest storms. And he was ready to walk through this storm with her, no matter how dark it became. After the night of her confession, the silence that once stood like a wall between Keanu and Sandra finally broke. For weeks he had lived with doubt, fear, and heartbreak, but now he knew the truth. The pain he felt was not from betrayal. It was from the weight she had tried to carry alone. The following days were different. Sandra began to let him in, little by little. She spoke about her fears, the endless visits to doctors, the quiet nights when she cried alone because she didn't want the world to see her weak. She admitted that the secret night out he had seen was not a betrayal, but a meeting with someone who was helping her navigate her illness. She had thought that by keeping him away she was protecting him, but now she realized her silence had only left him broken. Keanu listened to every word with patience. He never judged, never interrupted. He only held her hand, his quiet strength reminding her she was no longer alone. Still, the road ahead was not easy. There were hospital visits, treatments, and days when Sandra felt so tired she could barely speak. But through it all, Keanu was there. He made her tea in the mornings. He read to her when she was too weary to focus, and he sat with her in silence when words were too heavy. Sometimes, she would look at him with tears in her eyes and whisper, "You deserve someone without all this." And every time he would answer softly, "I deserve you. All of you. Even in storms." Their bond grew stronger, built not on perfection but on truth, resilience, and kindness. One evening, after a long day at the hospital, Sandra asked him to take her to the lake they both loved. The night sky stretched wide above them, stars shimmering over the calm water. They stood side by side, the cool air brushing against their faces. "Keanu," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Thank you for not walking away. I thought my silence would protect you, but it only hurt us. You gave me the courage to face the truth." He turned toward her, his eyes steady. "And you reminded me that love is not about avoiding pain. It's about walking through it together." Tears glistened in her eyes, but she smiled, a fragile yet beautiful smile. "Whatever happens, I want you to know you've given me more than love. You've given me strength." Keanu held her hand tightly. "And you've given me hope. No matter what tomorrow brings, we will face it together." They stood in silence, watching their reflections ripple across the water. For the first time in many months, the silence between them was no longer cold or heavy. It was warm, filled with understanding, filled with love. Their story was not perfect. It carried shadows, uncertainty, and pain, but it was real. And in its realness, it became something stronger than either of them had known before. As the night deepened, Keanu whispered his final vow into the quiet air. "I will not let go. Not now. Not ever." And Sandra, her heart at peace, squeezed his hand in silent agreement. The storm had not disappeared, but together, they had found light within it. And that was enough.